Mayor, thanks for coming in. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you, Jason.
Let's start with a topic a lot of people are talking about right now. How aggressive is Plano being right now to get the Dallas Stars to move up there?
Well, we would love to have them, and it's really up to the Stars to make that decision. I think it's pretty obvious that we would be thrilled to have an organization like that in Plano, and so it's really not up to us. It's up to them, and we're hoping that they come to Plano.
Is Plano prepared to sweeten the pot to roll out the red carpet here and offer some things to get the NHL team up there?
I think we'll do whatever we can to make sure that it's a really good offer, but at the same time it protects Plano's community and what we're doing right now for everyone, and make sure we protect the resources in Plano.
Are there actual talks happening between you guys and the team?
I can't say.
That's a yes, Mayor. That's a yes. But okay, something might be happening in the background. All right. Let's shift off and talk about mass transit here. In November, we spoke with you about Plano residents going to vote next May about whether to remain in DART. The DART CEO, after our original interview, she told us that she's not optimistic that the talks ahead of time right now could actually stop this election. What does your gut say?
You know, I don't know where she's getting that information from, because we really are trying to make a deal that's really good for all 13 member cities. We realize the region part of DART, and we realize not all of us have the same needs, whether it be, you know, all rail, buses, paratransit, all these other things that are really important to transportation. But we would love to come up with a solution that works for DART, works for us, to be able to, you know, have a system that has more ridership, that's more safe, that really does, you know, provide an opportunity for our residents to get from point A to point B without, you know, a huge effort that's really occurring right now.
You told us that the city's longtime offer, I believe, to stay in DART would be to pay a half penny of every dollar collected through sales tax instead of the full penny. Get rid of the buses, keep the rail. Has DART responded to that in these talks?
Not yet, not yet. DART is working on kind of evaluating their rates, and they plan on getting back with us hopefully in early January, because we've already put a committee together to look at alternative transit, and we're almost through with that. And so we just really want to see what our options are and what DART is willing to do, and be prepared. And we can pull it down up to March 18th. So if DART and us and other member cities can come to an agreement, you know, that'd be a wonderful scenario, and I'd love to see it happen.
How confident are you that could happen?
We've worked for 6 years, 3 legislative sessions, and we're still kind of right where we were 6 years ago. I'm always optimistic that we can come up with a solution, but there's going to have to be changes, not only on our part, but for DART's part too.
Mayor, what are residents saying about this? Because originally at the meeting, I believe the majority of them were saying, no, let's stay inside DART. You zoomed out, look at the bigger picture here for the sales tax money. But what are residents saying now that this has kind of come to a head?
Well, I think we're hearing from people that use DART on a regular basis. And it's, again, Plano's 300,000 people. We're hearing from several DART riders, paratransit riders. They don't want to lose that ability to go from Plano to Dallas or to the hospital or where it may be in different parts, and primarily areas that aren't in Plano. So they're concerned that if DART is voted out, then they have no way to getting to downtown Dallas or uptown or different cities that are in the DART transit authority. So we hear them and we understand that, but we also feel like an alternative would be able to do those things at the same time, really providing more of a personal Uber-like service for our residents that need to get to the doctor or the hospital or the grocery store. And those things are not really possible with the DART transit service that we're getting right now.
Microtransit could take these people at least to a DART connection somewhere in a neighboring city, couldn't they?
Sure, absolutely.
That's, is that what you guys are studying?
And that's what we're studying as well, is to not only keep the rail, but also keep the express buses that go, straight from a part of Plano down to Addison, Richardson, uptown, downtown.
And do you expect DART to be receptive to any of this, any of Plano's demands at all? Have sent?
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, just remember the TRE in Fort Worth, the DCTA in Denton County, those are all 50, half a penny transit authorities. I understand DART is much bigger, but we also need to grow DART. 13 member cities in 1983, we're still at 13 member cities.
If Plano voters decide to separate from DART, what would Plano spend its money on? Because you guys have talked in the past that the police department budget and economic development combined don't equal what Plano contributes to DART.
Right.
What would this money go to then? That would seem like a big pot.
We've committed so much money over the last 8 years on infrastructure. Plano grew in the late 80s, early 90s, and now a lot of our arterial roads are being redone. And so a lot of that infrastructure, in fact, most all of it, is coming from bond money that our residents are paying for. So that sales tax money would really benefit our ability to move faster on infrastructure.
You wouldn't have to float bonds then for some of this stuff, I guess.
Correct.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, that's a good segue into my next question here. Let's talk infrastructure for a moment, because talking to residents in Plano, it seems like that they tell me it seems like every major street in Plano is under construction, has been that way for the past couple of years. What's going on?
Well, I joke a lot, maybe it's not that funny to most of our residents, that our new city flower is the orange cone. But I think it's just our commitment to try to move forward and really substantiate our ability to have our arterial roads be in great shape for the next 30 and 40 years. And we realize that if you have decaying roads, especially the main roads, people aren't going to stay. They want a quality city that takes care of all their infrastructure. And remember, we have water mains that are underneath there, and a lot of times when we are repairing roads that are some of our main roads, we discovered that those water mains need to be repaired or replaced as well. So I think it's just a commitment that we have for our infrastructure in Plano, and we want that to be relevant for the next 30 and 40 years.
What's the timeline of finishing this construction? Any idea? Next 3 or 4 years, or what?
Next 3 or 4 years, we are anticipating being able to have our primary roads not only be repaired, but have that overlay that keeps them in really good shape for a much longer period of time. And we're committed to even neighborhoods and alleyways and sidewalks. And so all of that is a part of what our commitment is to our community.
City of Plano purchasing 3 closed campuses from Plano ISD. These are Davis and Foreman Elementaries plus Armstrong Middle School campuses. I know you probably remember from your days on the school board there.
I do.
Neighbors want these to become not new neighborhoods, but city parks. What's the city's plan here?
Well, we don't have a plan. We have had meetings with the residents of each one of these elementary schools and that middle school to talk about what they would like, what they don't want. We'll do whatever I think our community wants. We do have an abundance of parks. Don't get me wrong. I think Plano wins the #1 park system in all of Texas every year. And but if that's the real desire of the communities that are, quite frankly, upset at losing their, neighborhood school, then we'll try to find a way to make that work and try to land bank some of that park land for those uses that the neighborhoods really would like.
Do you expect any of it could be farmed out, parceled out, and given to developers, sold to developers?
The only developer that we would even consider would be single-family homes, because these different types of products would not work in the neighborhoods that they're in. So we would only consider something in that area if we could maybe use, there's one area in Foreman that's going to be used as a fire station to replace one that's really not working quite well. But other than that, we'd consider a park, we'd consider single-family homes, but we also know that's been rejected pretty heavily by most of the neighborhoods in those 3 campuses. So we'll make sure we consider the desires of the neighborhoods.
One more question on that. I've heard for years, listen, Plano is built out. That's why you see Frisco and all these other places just really exploding there. If there's no more room to build, how does Plano keep growing revenue here?
Well, we're still, I think, a real attraction for commercial business. They continue to want to be in Plano because we have such marquee names already there. Yeah. We'll continue to be able to find locations in Plano for our commercial partners, because that does help us sustain that growth in the commercial business area. And we continue to do well in our retail and our restaurants and sales tax. And so that's going to be really important to people like Plano, depending upon what the legislation does here in the next session. And obviously, all of the municipalities are, concerned about what happens to property tax and what's replacing that. And so that'll be a big question. And for us in Plano, that's really important to have such a dynamic business community and a really good sales tax.
Last question, looking ahead to 2026, biggest challenges, biggest opportunities for Plano?
Our biggest challenge continues to be making sure we get through this infrastructure, trying to come up with a solution regarding DART, and continuing to have marquee businesses come to Plano.
Mayor, good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you.